In this video, we will see how we can build this image picker, okay? If I come here and I tap on this button, as you can see, we're able to change our profile image, okay? So let's pick this image, for example. And as you can see, this image will update, okay? And not only this image, because if you pay attention, as you can see, this image will also update, okay? So let me show you this again. So if I come here, I tap on this, and now I pick this image, and as you can see, this will update and also this will update, okay? So we'll see step by step how we can accomplish this result, okay? But for the sake of only this video, we will only focus on the UI part, okay? So we'll see how we can add this on image, okay? Also how we can add this, okay? And also how we can add this button, okay? And now for the actual logic of this image picker, okay, we will see it in the paid version of this course, okay? Because if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you should know that this is only the free version of this course, okay? And we actually have a paid version, okay? And if you want to have access to the paid version, you can simply check the link in the description, okay? So with that said, what we can do, we can put this guy here. And now what we want to do, we want to come into our code, and where do we want to add this image picker? Well, we want to add this on this profile, okay? So when we are on this profile tab, we want to have this view, okay? And right now, when we're on this profile, we simply see this text, okay? And to prove you guys that I'm telling the truth, so yeah, if we say profile test, for example, as you can see, it will update this, okay? So this is the right place. So now, instead of this text, what we want to add a view, okay? And as we said in previous videos, we don't want to get our code messy, okay? Because we could add all of our code here, okay? But it makes more sense to create a new view, okay? So that's exactly what we will do. So if we come here and we come on this views folder, what we want to do, we want to create a new view, okay? And what we can actually do, we can create that view inside this settings, okay? So if you come inside this settings folder, we want to create a new file. And for the name of our SwiftUI view file, we will call it profile image view. And now inside this profile image view, instead of this hello world, or what we could do, we could simply say hello world from profile image view, okay? And now what we want to copy this and go back to this settings view. And here, instead of this text, what we want to call a view, okay? And normally you're supposed to see this hello world from profile image view, okay? And everything is working perfectly, okay? So now we can actually focus on this profile image view, okay? Okay, now let's go back to our finish app. And as you can see, for image picker, first of all, we have this image, okay? And then we have this button, okay? This pencil button. And we also have these beautiful outer cycles, okay? So what we said, yeah, the first thing we need an image. We also need a pencil button. And last but not least, we also need our outer cycle. Okay, so let's start with this image, okay? So if we remove this text, what we want, as we said, we want an image, okay? So let's go ahead and create an image. And here for the name of our image, if you guys remember, we have this asset, okay? So what we can do, we can simply come here and copy the name. And now if you go back to this profile image view, simply want to paste our name, okay? And normally we are supposed to see the image, okay? So everything is working perfectly. Now what we want to do, we want to work on this image, okay? So let's go ahead and style this image. So here what we want this scale to fill. We also want to add a frame. And here for the frame, for the width, it's gonna to be 150. And for the height, it's gonna to be 150, okay? And now we want to add a clip shape. And here it's gonna to be a cycle. And as you can see, now it's a cycle. And the next thing we want to do, we want to actually add an overlay on this image, okay? Because I don't know if you guys can see, but Here on the finish app, we have this white cycle, okay, just on top of our image, okay. So here, how can we accomplish this? We can simply come here and add an overlay. And inside this overlay, what we want to do, we want to add this cycle. And normally we are supposed to see a cycle. But here, what we only want the stroke, okay. So let's go ahead and add this stroke. And here for the color of our stroke, what we want to do, we want to add this color white, okay. And here, because we have a white background, we are not able to see this cycle, okay. So for now, let me change this to blue. And normally you guys are supposed to see this, okay. And now it's not that visible, okay. So what we can do, we can actually add a line width, okay. And for us, it's gonna to be a line width of 4, okay. And now you're able to see this cycle, okay, which is nice. So now instead of this blue color, what we want the color white, okay. So perfect. The next thing we want to do, we want to add a shadow. And for a shadow, it's going to be of radius of 10, okay. And as you can see, we have this nice shadow, okay. And everything is working perfectly and everything is working as we expected, okay. So that's it for this image. So the next thing we want to do, we now want to add this pencil button, okay, as you can see. So how can we add this pencil button? What we can do, we can add another overlay, okay, and we add this image, okay. So that's what we are going to do. So here, what we want to do, we want to add an overlay. And now inside this overlay, as we said, we want to add this pencil button, okay. And what we could actually do, we could add our code here, okay. But because we want our code to be clean, what we are going to do, instead of adding this code here, what we will do, we will actually copy this. And we want to create an extension, okay. So let's go ahead and create this extension. And it's going to be an extension of this profile image view. And now that we are inside this extension, what we want to do, we want to actually create a button, okay. And we will call it edit button overlay. And of course, it's going to return a view. And now inside this view, what we want to do, we want to actually add our icon, okay. But just for the sake of testing, what we could do, just for now, we can simply add a text. And here we simply want to say test, okay. And now what we can do, we can simply copy this and paste it here. And as you can see, we are able to see this test, okay. Let me zoom in just in case you guys are not able to see. Okay, so as you can see, we have this test, okay. So which is cool. So this is working. So now this is not the result that we want. So let's work on this. So the first thing we want to do, we want to come back here. And what we want to do, first of all, we want to remove this text. And here we will replace it by an image, okay. And here for the name of our image, we will call this pencil.cycle.fill. Okay, perfect. And as you can see, we have this pencil, okay. Let me zoom in again. So as you can see, we have this icon, okay. So which is cool. Now what we want to do, we want to style our image, okay. So let's go ahead and do so. So here, what we want to make it resizable. And we want to change the frame. So here for our width, what we want a width of 30. And here we also have to change the height. And for our height, we want a height of 30. Okay, perfect. The next thing we want to do, we want to change the foreground color. And here for the color we want our accent color, okay. So if we come back here, if you guys remember, we have this my accent color. So we can simply copy this. And what we want to come here on this color and we simply want to paste a color. Okay, perfect. Now the next thing we can do, we can change the background color, okay. So let's go ahead and here, background, the color we want is the color white, okay. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, we have this white background, okay. So now what we want to do, we want to change the shape of this background, okay. So here, We will add this clip shape, and the shape we want is this cycle, okay? And here we have an error simply because we forgot to add this on that, okay? And normally everything should be okay. And now the next thing we want to do, we want to basically do the same thing here. So we want to add this overlay. So we can simply copy this and paste it here. Okay, perfect. And yeah, I think we can maybe reduce the line width. So let's set this to 2. Okay, I think 2 looks better, okay? And now that we are happy with our button, what we want to do, as you can see by default, when you put something inside this overlay, okay, it will appear at the center of the image, okay? And we don't want this. So what we actually want, we want to align this at the bottom, okay? So if we come on this overlay, what we want to do, here we want to add something else. So here we want to add the alignment, okay? And here for alignment, as you can see, we can either put it at the bottom. So if we put this at the bottom, it will simply push this to the bottom, okay? But here, we don't only want it at the bottom, okay? But we also want it at the bottom right, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. So if we change this, here as you can see, we have this button leading. So the leading is the beginning. So if you pick this button leading, as you can see, we'll put it here, okay? But we don't want this, okay? We don't want this at the leading, okay? We want this at the end, okay? So here, instead of button leading, what we will want is this button trailing, okay? So let's go ahead and pick this. And as you can see, it will simply push this to the end of this image, okay? Which is exactly what we want, okay? But yeah, when I was doing this, I noticed that this right now does not look good, okay? Why? Because right now, for me, I think this is too far, okay? So what I ended up doing is I ended up playing here with this image, okay? So here on this image, what we want to do, we want to play with the offset, okay? So let's go ahead and add this offset. And the offset we want an offset on the x-axis, okay? And we want an offset of -25, okay? And as you can see, it will push this inside, okay? So that's the reason why we added this x offset. So let me explain this again. So yeah, by default, if we simply add this alignment bottom trailing, okay, it will put this at the bottom trailing, okay? But as you can see, I think this does not look good, okay? So that's the reason why I wanted to push this inside, okay? So the way you should look at this, right now, this button trailing is here. So this is the center, okay? So the x-axis is like this and the y-axis is like this, okay? So what we are doing, we add an offset, okay, and we want our offset to go to the left, okay? So that's the reason we add this -25, because this is 0, okay? Technically the middle of this is 0, okay, and we want to go to the left, okay? So that's the reason why we added this minus. And for the 25, I simply played with the values, okay? So you guys can do the same thing. So if you don't like this 25, maybe you can change it. So if I say, for example, 20, as you can see, maybe for you this looks better, but for us, we will simply go with this -25, okay? And I think this looks good, okay? So now I think that's it for this button, okay? And now what we want to do, we want to add this outer cycle, okay? So how can we achieve this, okay? Well, in order to achieve this, what we want to do, we want to do the same thing as this edit button. So what we want to do, we want to come here and we want to create a new variable. And for the name, we will simply call it outer cycles. And of course, it's going to return some view. And now inside this, as we usually do, we will simply add a text. And here inside, for the text itself, we will simply add this text, okay? And now what we want to do, we want to find a way, okay, to add these outer cycles inside this image, okay, or on top of this image. And in order to do so, let me show you something. So if we take this finish up again, as you can see, Yeah, we have these two cycles, okay? And then we have for image, and then we have for button, okay? And if you pay attention, we said before that when you put something inside an overlay, by default, it will put that element at the center of the parent element, okay? So for us, it makes sense to actually start adding this cycle first, okay? And then adding this image, okay? And the best way we can do so is by adding a ZStack, okay? Because ZStack will actually act as this overlay, okay? Whatever we put inside a ZStack, okay, it will simply add it at the center, okay? So I don't know if what I'm saying right now is making sense, okay? So let me just do it and I will explain it to you step by step, okay? So if we come back here, what we actually want to do, we want to come inside this body, and what we want to do, we want to create a ZStack. And now inside this ZStack, what we want to do, the first thing we want to do, we want to add our cycle, and then we want to add our profile image. So the reason why we want to add this in this order is simply because, as I said, by default, this ZStack, we add everything in the center, okay? So what we will do, yeah, we want to add these two cycles first, okay? And because these two are bigger than this, when we will add this profile image, it will simply come nicely at the center of these two cycles, okay? So let's go ahead and copy these outer cycles, and what we want to do, we want to add it here. And here for our image, what we actually want to do, we want to cut this, okay? Because remember, we want our code to be clean, okay? So we want to cut this, and here we simply want to create a private variable, and we will call it profile image. And here we are going to return a view. And now inside this view, what we want to do is simply want to paste what we have here, okay? And here we have an error because we forgot this var. And normally this should go away. Okay, so now that we have this, what we can do, we can simply come here, copy this, and paste it here, okay? And right now we are not able to see this test. Why? Simply because, as I said, this ZStack we put everything on top of the other, okay? So because we added this first, okay, so this one right now is behind this image, okay? And to prove to you guys that I'm telling the truth, so if I cut this and I paste it after this, normally we are supposed to see our test, okay? And as you can see, we're able to see this test, okay? Let me maybe zoom in, and as you can see this test, okay? But this is not what we want, okay? We actually want this to come first, okay? Because we want these images to be behind, okay? So now let's go ahead and work on these cycles, okay? So here it's going to be pretty simple. So what we want to do, we want to add a group. And now inside this group, we simply want to add these two cycles, okay? And let's go ahead and work on this cycle. So the first thing we want to do, we want to add a stroke. And for the color, it's going to be on the same color or accent color. So what we can do, we can simply copy this and paste it here. And here we can play with the opacity. And the opacity we want this 0.5, okay? And now the last thing we want to do here is to add this line width. And we want a line width of 4, okay? And now we can also change the frame. So here for the frame, we want a frame of, for the width, we want 180. And for the height, we also want 180, okay? And we basically want to do the same thing for the other one. So we can copy this and put it down here. And here to make this smaller, what we can do, instead of 180, here we want 165. And we want to do the same thing here, okay? And as you can see, everything is working fine, okay? And now I think the last thing we want to do, we want to come on this on ZStack. And what we want to do, we actually want to set a frame, okay? Because here we added this frame, okay, of 180. We just want to make sure that this profile image does not get too big, okay? So here for the width, what we want a width of 200, and here for the height, We also want a height of 200, okay? Okay, perfect. And I think with this, we are pretty much done, okay? So let me maybe clean up a little bit. And here we can zoom out. So now normally, if we come back on this settings view, as you can see, we are able to see our image, okay? And of course, right now it does not work, okay? But as I said in the beginning of this video, we will actually see how to implement everything in the pay version of this course, okay? And right now, everything is still working the same. So if we switch to this tab, as you can see, we'll switch, okay? And we can also scroll this. And as you can see, everything is working perfectly. So I think that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next video where we will keep building this amazing app, okay? So take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.